All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to The Seed. We are in season 3 of the
Woo-hoo.
new year. I know, right? Very exciting. But I'm sure our guest today will contest that it's all about consistency, and consistency does bring growth. So super excited about today's call with Christine. So Christine is baller. There is no other way to put it. She is all about you're a best author, right? How many books have you written?
Three.
And let's hear about the books. Let's deep dive a little bit into that.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. The first one, I will tell you, there's a funny story. The first one is all about what do you do when you pick yourself up after a major plot twist. In my case, I was fired
Oh,
and really unexpectedly did not see it coming, and it put me into both a spin and a change in directory. And the 10 questions I ask myself that is shared in that are the 10 questions every new client must answer before our second call.
oh, I love that. So
So
what
there's a
what happens if they don't answer all 10 questions?
we're not in the right space. And I'd be like, let's talk about what's your vision, because the vision piece is who are you when you're not defined by your income, and who are you when you're not defined by your job title? Because I need to understand what is going to feel like oxygen to you.
Yep.
Because when we first start working together, I am tasked with holding your vision.
Yes.
So I need to know what it is, because I said, you're going to wobble, you're scared. I said, I'm going to help you build the business. That's a given. That's what I do. But in the early days, I need to know what your vision is. So the first piece of the puzzle, and the most remarkable thing I will say about it, most people miss the exercise entirely, and they don't dream big
Oh
enough.
my gosh.
So that's the first piece of the puzzle. The
That
second one is really about, truthfully, how do you grow a business? And I'm constantly perplexed that people do not know how to do this. And I just, truthfully, because I spent all of my life in business and I've equipped myself in business, I have great admiration for people that say, I'm going to go build a business, but then I'm gobsmacked when they don't build the business skills. Because I'm like, you got to have the business skills to build a business that works. So that's actually where I ended up creating a whole business. But I didn't know that that was needed. So the second book is all about much of what I teach foundationally in all of my programming. And then the third one is about how to find your next buyer and create revenue through podcasting as a guest.
girl,
Because
tell
I
me
think,
about it. That's it. I literally have my own digital course on how to like easy peasy, like it takes it like go through this for 1 hour and then implement.
yes, because so many people waste time. Our goal is client growth. I mean, this
Yes.
is the most baller statement I'll make. Clients and money are the key to this, people. Let's not avoid the elephant in the room. And if you don't know how to, use your time effectively to find clients, this is the number one thing we must solve this year, because
Yes.
without it, you are constantly on a merry-go-round and a roller coaster you create, and you don't have to. So let's get you off it so that you're using your time effectively. Because the story is, for my business journey of entrepreneurship, I started my first business working 1 hour a day. I did not get out of bed on a Wednesday to start a business. By Friday, I could hear the excuses. I was irritated with myself and thought, take your own advice, bet on yourself. And it was working a business 1 hour a day that led to a lot of conversations around coffee or a glass of
Hmm.
wine, depending how you know me. And they'd be like, how are you building a business 1 hour a day? Well, you still have a very big job. I was running half of the country. And in a corporate job, I was getting engaged. So I was engaged to be married. So I was planning a wedding. I was becoming a
Hmm.
bonus mom to two teenage kids and a dog and building a house. And I was able to build a business. And I'm like, I'm not a unicorn. I just know how the game is played. And people go, tell me the game. Sure, I'll tell you the game. And then inevitably time would pass and they'd come back and they go, I can't apply the game to myself. I'm stuck in the learning and not in the earning. I'm like, it's really exhausting you. It's exhausting me
Yes.
watching you do the hokey pokey. How about we fix that? And eventually it led to people saying, I will pay you. Please just make this go away. I will
Oh,
pay you.
just
And I was like,
just do it for me.
I don't have a business doing that. They're like, you need a business doing that. I will pay you. Please help me solve this. And anyway, 4 years later, here we are.
And you're loving it, right?
I love it. It is an absolute privilege, and it is so incredibly humbling to be asked to one, hold somebody's vision, to bear witness to the vision, to sit there while they whisper, this is what I really want. And the breakthrough between this is what I want, wow, I'm really doing it, wow, look how far I've come is like a sizzle
Do you
that
find it
never
so
gets old.
relatable because you've been able to manage and get over that hump? And you're helping out these other entrepreneurs, these other small businesses, large businesses, because you've had great successes in the past
On
4 years.
both
I mean, you had great successes
sides.
for quite
It
a
is.
while. I
And
mean,
they're
let's
not all
get,
success stories, I will tell
oh,
you.
heck no. Heck no.
There's a lot of knives in my back. I will tell you the one thing about myself is I am 100% prepared to stand on a grenade. And I'm 100% prepared to blow myself up.
Actually, before we even get into the question I was going to ask, so everybody's going to have to wait for that later. Let's like go back to the Christine, back to the point of what started you off in the corporate world and being the powerhouse that you were in that dream that you had for yourself before the dream shifted directions to where you are now, and which is also beautiful because it that is living proof that you can have more than one dream, and dreams can shift and change, and we pivot based upon what we're hearing, what we're feeling, and what we're needing. So we'll start from there.
Sure. You know, the number one hallmark of what I would hire for and what defines me is curiosity. And I give full credit to my parents. I have a unique kind of life story. I've lived in 5 countries, 30 cities, some of them more than once. And a lot of people
Why?
think
How?
I'm either in the witness protection program or I'm a military brat. And the answer is no to both, although I signed the Official Secrets Act when I lived in the UK. And now you're thinking, damn it, she's a spy. Can't tell you. But you know, we moved because my dad's career was successful and he was brought into new places to go solve problems. And that was my learning, was everything's a solvable problem. And truthfully, the reason I'm successful today is because I believe that there's nothing we can't solve. None of us start with all the information. None of us have all the best decisions all the time. But I believe if I stand on a grenade and I blow myself up, I can put myself into a new way
True.
from what I learned. And
True.
I'm not still sending thank you cards for everybody that I detonated or got detonated by, but truthfully,
No, no, you don't do
no, no,
that.
still not. Still probably have some work to do on the healing side. But the truth was curiosity, because and when I was young, my parents instilled this sense of curiosity, which was when we were in a new town or a new city, and it was like, you're going to play this sport, or you're going to join this piece of art, or
Yes.
something different. And it was always something new. And I had to figure it out and
Yes.
find friends and be in community. And so I'm an introvert that's learned to be an extrovert because I had to. I wanted friends by recess. And
Yes.
the biggest fear was always, we don't know how to make friends with strangers. And truthfully, your business is built on strangers. You've got to solve this, my peeps.
I
So
mean,
curiosity is the one thing I can't teach you.
I just love the fact because this is one of those situations of where you could have sunk with
Mhm.
all the moves. You could have become more introverted, especially if that's inherently something you want to cling on to. And you could have stayed in your little bubble, in your little family unit, instead of getting out there and exploring new territories, exploring the nuances of where you were during that time and developing those relationships. I mean, I
And I
think that,
wanted to.
yeah, I think that's amazing. I
I
really
still
do.
want to. Truthfully, this has not changed. I still
So,
want to.
so real quick, how long have you been in your home now?
So it's funny story. This current home is the longest home I've lived in my whole life. It is now 6 years,
Okay.
coming on 7. And for the first time a couple of years ago, I had to have the whole conversation of a mortgage renewal. I'm like, I have never lived in a house long enough that I've gone through that.
That's nuts.
So I like, we answer this is we have to get rid of the mortgage because I don't want to do this more than once. So that's what we did. The answer was like, let's all figure out how we pay off the mortgage. But and that was the problem solved when we solved it. And I was like, I
Yep.
never need to do that again. But I will hire always, and I always use that barometer of curiosity because If you're curious, you're trying to find a pattern. You're
Yes.
trying to see how things connect. You're trying to have faith that there is an evolution happening.
Do you ever
That's the one
advise
thing I can't teach you, but it is the powerful thing that will open every door you want.
your clients to get out there and explore and say, listen, you might not have to move to 30 different cities, but go visit. Try to at least schedule in your calendar year 3 new cities to visit, or once a quarter go visit a city to and put yourself out there, meet new people. If you're into food, do it that way. If you're all about going to yoga, that way, hiking excursions, all those things, because there's so many different opportunities for you to get out there and explore and learn.
You have to. I don't
Yeah.
make it optional, truthfully. I don't care which way you do it. And that's why we always start with the vision piece, because I
Hmm.
said, you have to decide it is worth it. And your version of what is worth it to you will be different than everybody else's. But it is the thing where I tell people, I mean, if you come to the table, be curious, I can build you a business. Like I have certainty around that. And I say to people, I'm not betting on your business idea when you hire me because chances are it will evolve enormously over the journey. And we must be curious to what feels right. What do we want to do? But I said, let's be clear. There's going to be things you do not like. I will hold you to that by saying it doesn't matter whether you like it or not. What matters is on the other side, it is worth it. And that means I'm going to challenge you. Yes, you asked me, you hired me to be accountable to. And I'm just saying, you told me this was the vision. So
Hmm.
don't judge me when I'm
I
saying
agree.
that
I
means you must
agree.
make a phone call. And everyone's like, I don't want to make any sales. I'm like, I'm sorry, but you can't pay my bill if you don't make any sales. So let's figure this out. And I will sit on calls with people and I will hold them at the speed at which you want to travel, but you are still traveling. And
Yep.
I think if curiosity is really what's been the kind of the through line, it is this idea that curiosity is about moving. And everything I focus on as a business mentor is about movement. You control your speed. But I'm going to ensure to you that the only thing that should be clear is quitting is not on the table.
True.
And so you can choose your speed. If you're prepared to quit every 3 seconds because life is hard, you're not a client for me. And
So,
I will probably irritate you.
I will never forget, I had a meeting with two business owners, and this was when Dandelion-Inc. was solely focused on helping people with marketing and visibility on social media. Singular platform. There are many facets of marketing, which I think people need to realize. It's not just Facebook and it's not just Instagram. There are, there's a magnitude and so many different layers when it comes to it. So
Mhm.
they came to visit me, and you can see in one of the partners' eyes, she was done. The the heartbreaking, the painstaking, the dip that they were getting from the high that they were at. And even though they climbed back out of that high, that impact of that low was something very difficult for her to overcome. And you feel like you're like the wedding planner. And whatever song they pick for their first dance, you can gauge how much longer they're going to be in business. And you were able to gauge. I was like,
Mhm.
she just needs to buck up and tell the person next to her, because that's the one that matters the most, that she's on her way out.
Yeah, and there's a level of honesty. I mean, this is something I will tell everyone and take this with great heart. You are the spark to your dream.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else around you, whether it is you, Lisa, or me, or someone else that is in your peer level of influence,
Yep.
are fuel sources. It is not up to anybody else to carry that spark. And so there are times a lot of people will come into my world, both with great hope and aspiration and no business skills. And there's an element of, I'm on my last kick at this. And the other end of the spectrum, which
Mm-hmm.
is, I can't live another year, or I can't continue to fall short of the potential, what I believe is possible. And so I need help. And there's a level of truth, which is before I make any offer, I ask that question. Tell me why this is not negotiable. Tell me why you are committing to this path, because I'm not here to drag you.
Nope.
That's not my job. My job is to support, and my job, yes, is to encourage, and yes, to spur on and to make some things easier to get started. And
Yes.
so, yes, you can ask my opinion. I will always have one. But at the end of the day, it's your decision that moves you forward. And the first decision, which is, I may take my lumps today, but I'm not quitting the field. And when we have a moment, and I said, when I got moved around a lot as a kid, and I continued the pattern voluntarily as an adult, I remember rallying against, can we just stay in one place? Do I have to go find a new sport team to join, a new thing to go do? And I would rally against the expectation that I could just figure it out because it felt so unfair and hard and mean-spirited, and my parents were ruining my life. They did not care. They're like, we're the
No.
parent, you're the
Yeah.
child, we're moving, you are going with us.
Yes.
And
And I
that
feel
was a
like that's the
hugely,
battle cry of every kid, no matter what the parent is
well, and
doing.
now there's a lot of parents who orchestrate their lives around their kids and not the other way around. And that lesson, though, while it does still to this day, even as an entrepreneur, rallies against, you just assume I'm going to be successful. And people around me are like, Christine, you'll just figure it out. And I'm like, yeah, but you know how many times I have to hold the vision myself?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like,
It's true.
you choose to. And I'm like, well, that's a laser. That's actually probably accurate. And I've gotten much better over time about building my inner circle, which is I'm scared, I'm wobbly. And I always think there's this truth to ask yourself, especially this time of year. The wobble is always going to be there because new level, new devil, whatever it is that you're seeking, there's always going to be disruption. There's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be adversity. There's always going to be hope. There's always going to be possibility and opportunity. And so the wobble is normal. Let's just normalize this. The wobble is normal. At
It
every
is.
business I've ever helped, there's 400 of them in the backstory, created $1 billion. There's a lot of wobble, a lot of it. But I always ask my clients this, and I ask myself this every day. Would I rather be in control of the wobble or be controlled by it?
That's right.
And I know what answer I always stand in. And my clients will say to me, is they're in high growth or in a major setback, if they lose a big client they weren't anticipating releasing, I always say, how do you feel about the wobble? And they're like, I know I can get through this. I need some advice. Sure, that's what I'm here for. And that is so powerful. And that's a choice that you make to step into curiosity, to step into the solution finding mindset and a real dogmatic, I'll take my lumps, but I will be back here tomorrow. Because in those days that were very tough as I was a young kid moving around a lot, I had to get up the next day and say, well, there's no other choice. I have to face this head on. That didn't mean I
I
wasn't
love,
nervous.
I
I
love
just
that
had
you
to.
say that there was no other choice, but you know that there was another choice. You just internally had no other choice for yourself, and you pushed yourself to be able to go out there
Yeah.
and still redo it and solve the
I,
problems, use the
my parents, I
curiosity.
did not think I had another choice, truthfully. And now there's a level of, who you surround yourself, which says, get over yourself.
Yeah.
Make the steps if it's worth it. And the moment you're not sure, then it always means you have to go back to your vision, which is, what did you want? And
Hmm.
this is, I think, some of the biggest challenge in deciding if you will be here successful at the end of the year is coming down to this simple question. I know you want it. It's not enough. My question will be definitively breaking everybody into two camps. If you want it, that's the easy part. Get clear on why you want it. Because if you're clear it is worth it, then my question to you is, will you do what is required to get what you want?
It's true.
Because there's no other way to pay the game. I had to, if I wanted a friend in a new town, I had to go to class. I had to go show up. I had to also initiate in ways I never wanted to because I'm an introvert. And I know now I have to get visible because my next client is searching for them and they're more scared than I am, which might terrify you, but your next client is more terrified than you are, and you have to be braver. And I can be brave for small moments. I have rituals, I have pep talks, I have ways I have learned to navigate this, but
So
I still go, suck it up, buttercup, if you
So we
want
are
it.
we are going to go back to that initial question that I was going to ask before. And because again, it's popping its head into my mind. It's there again, and I'm not going to bypass it twice. But so you're talking about like the want and the why, um, getting out there and pushing yourself. Now, with your clients, do you find it difficult, especially if they're women, to get down to the nitty and gritty and say what seems to be for them a selfish thing to say of their why? Because a lot of times women owners want to say, the why is simply just to help those around me. The why is simply to provide this product that I know that could be the greatest thing in the world to them. Best skin, let's say, whatever it may be. Never a wrinkle. Like what, but that component of, well, there's the wealth component and what all that wealth could also do for all the other things that I want to do. Do you find that difficult that people are a little bit less apprehensive versus if I sit in a circle with men and you ask them their why, they're like, money.
Well, and I will say it is money for women too. And the funny thing is women don't like to be honest with that. And
That's what I'm saying. Isn't
I
that
I, I have this
crazy?
great debate with my bestie. She's been my bestie. Well, we've known each other since I was 15. We've been really good friends since I was probably in my 20s. And we have this great debate a lot. Do you know what you want? And I will tell you, it is important for women to work with women mentors.
Mm-hmm.
A strong women mentor who will hold you to what do you want?
Yes.
Because the thing that we get caught into more than men is we say an answer that is socially acceptable, which derails us out of the gate. I'm doing this for my children is the number one
Mm-hmm.
BS excuse you've got going on, sweetheart. Number two, I'm doing this to retire my husband. Number two. Number three, I'm doing this to save the world, the planet, whatever. Let's just be clear. If it wanted to be saved, it would have been saved. We are a billion people, 8 plus. If we wanted to be saved, we would have been saved. Okay, like, come on, like we are smart, capable human beings on this planet. We don't want to be saved until we learn to save ourselves. And in the path of business, you choose the vehicle of business, but the answer is you're saving yourself. You do it because you want it. And I know this because when every time I've been checked hard, it's usually by my husband, who reminds me to not say the socially acceptable answer, but to say the truthful answer, which is I want to do it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And the day I chose to start my business, said on Wednesday, I didn't get out of bed, start a business. And by Friday, I had been invited by somebody who I had not spoken to in 10 years, who reached out to me on LinkedIn, who said, when I was a 30-ish-year-old woman, I left an impression I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Okay, did not think at 30 that was on my radar, but she's like, that's the legacy I remember you by. Fascinating. Haven't talked to this woman. We were not socially friends. We never had a cocktail outside of a work environment. We never were personally connected in that way. She changed my life when she reached out on LinkedIn and said, "You want to talk about something? I've got an idea." I'm like, "Well, I'm curious."
I'm
So I
here.
was curious, but I could hear I could hear it was an excuse about money. It was an excuse about time. It was an excuse about this wasn't going to be acceptable by everyone else around me. And I thought, I need to bet on myself. I'll do this because I want to. And I said yes in a heartbeat. I went down to the kitchen and my fiance at the time was making coffee. And I very casually, probably too casually in hindsight, said, by the way, babe, I've just started a business. He's like, you did what? Like, I left you brushing your teeth. Like, I'm confused. You didn't tell me you were contemplating starting a business. You didn't, like, we're about to be married. I'm like, yep, got that. 3 months from now, kind of starting to stress about that. And he's like, where do people talk about things like that? And I'm like, it never occurred for me to talk to you about this. It also never occurred to me that I needed permission to do this. And so I just didn't. So pay attention. That's a good clue. And
Yes.
he said, well, why do you want to do this? And I'm like, because I need this for me. And he's like, okay, then what does this mean for us? I'm like, 1 hour a day. Okay, we can figure that out. And that's how it started. And when I work with women, one of the first things that is the biggest breakthrough, and I've seen it in every level of business, in every woman I've ever worked with, the moment you get clear, I'm doing this because I want to, is when it shifts. Because you then get really clear, I'm willing to do what's required.
Yes, it's true.
And that element of I get to do this for me, because when people say, it's socially acceptable to do it for your children, I'm like, BS, because truthfully, you're not doing what's required. You're doing what's convenient. You're doing it when it's convenient. And truthfully, if you want to be at the school gate and do all those things with your kids, you have to have a business that allows you to do that. And until you have the business, that's a luxury. And you may have to trade some things. And everyone's like, I'm going to go work for somebody else who said I didn't have to do that. I'm like, great, come back when you need to make money because I will help you do that. And like, I believe you should take time out of your business 12 months of the year because you want to. And you have a business that supports, you can.
That's
You don't
right.
take time out of your business because there's no clients or you believe it's a peak or you believe it's a valley. Like December is the biggest crap story around. I hear all the time. Nobody's buying in December. Are you kidding me? It's my second best
Oh
month of
my
the
gosh. Like no. You have from Thanksgiving actually through even because I heard this a lot too was nobody's really buying in January.
year.
But it's not
Imagine.
especially you got non-alcoholic products out there. You got a spa out there. You got people are buying. People are
People are
buying.
buying. And if they're not buying from you, that you need to look in the mirror and that's just an uncomfortable laser I will share because it's needed. And when you decide that you want it, and that's why we have to really get clear, why do you want this? It has to feel like oxygen for you because you are the
Yes.
spark. You can't burden somebody else with the expectation that they will carry it for you. You get right now to know there's going to be a stranger that will cheer for you faster than somebody you thought should. Don't care. It's a reality. But when you get clear, I want this, you then will start to do a shift that says, I will do what's required
Because it's
and
something
I
you
will
want.
stay at the table until the job is done. And that doesn't mean that we don't speed up and slow down, but we're in this time of year that if you're not having an epic sales out of the first week of the year, it's because of what you did in Q4. And the bigger danger is right now you might slide into the end of January before you get started. We'll wake up 90 days to grow a client on average from curious to paid client, which means you're now putting your revenue crescendo in Q2. But if you don't take action now, that QT slides into Q3. And every June, for most of us in North America, we have this, well, I'm not very busy, so I might as well take the summer off. It's nice weather. I'll go to picnics. I'll take my kids to whatever. And I'm saying, right about now, you have lost 9 months of the year. My business booms 12 months of the year. I take time out 12 months of the year. I'm away the next month. I think I'm actually in my own house 6 days. And I'm starting in a group. And I have 3 new clients that will start, and we still have room for 3 more. And it is possible because I orchestrate a business that has foundations in place because it's the way I choose to do it.
So when you are curating this business and you just said that you have three new clients that are coming on board and you have space for three more,
Mhm.
what are you doing, especially if you're only in your home 6 days out of the year? What are you doing to curate this business? And then laying the groundwork for the next three. Is it like this cycle? Now, because I know what I would do in the sales world of real estate. And I'm going to assume it's something similar to that, but I want to hear from you. Like, what is it that you did to get the three and getting the three?
Yeah, well, I'm 100% clear. You didn't get out of bed to hire me today, but I have to get visible and I have to know who I am, what I stand for, where I play, why you'd hire me, and how I can help you. And so there is a piece of clarity around that comes first. I will tell you, businesses often do not get to this until chapter 7. It's normal. But it is the most important piece. And eventually, then people are like, ew, I feel like I'm gambling all the time. I'm like, stop gambling and build a foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I know that people didn't get out of bed to hire me today, which makes me really clear speaking is the fastest path to cash. So we're on the second day of the year and I'm speaking in somebody else's community.
Yeah.
Today, I also got 2 more speaking opportunities that got confirmed as of today that will happen in this month. And I built them around the days I happen to be at home. And I am clear that I must have a way to move people because movement's the key. On average, 7 to 12 touch points before your client is visible to you. So I will have events, I will have opportunity, I'll have new content that will all go out pre-batched and recorded so that the business looks like it is stable, even if I'm not sleeping in the same bed. But my clients then have a real predictability because I have 100% certainty I will be here in 26 and 30. And so I build my business around that. And then I have a very clear discipline in my sales process, which is anybody who's reached out to connect in some format, whether it's at an event or at some other room I've been in, something, my first conversation is a conversation in the morning. Reach out, contact somebody, phone somebody, talk to somebody. And I'm really clear with who I'm identifying in that touching out point, who is a potential buyer for me. Because the goal, my friends, is not just visibility. That's easy to get lost in. You are looking for a buyer, which is a needle in a haystack. It's 3% of people any given day are the buyer. That's a small percentage, but it's 3% today, 3% tomorrow, 3% the day after. So for me, if I stay in, for me, it's speak at least once a week, typically 4 to 8 speaking opportunities that are not my own a month, always gives me new people to talk to. And I'm looking for the buyer. And in the buyer, I segment in my own very, very basic way, a fast lane, a middle lane, and a slow lane. The fast lane is somebody's like, I probably know, I've probably made an offer to, and they're like, I am not moving at the speed I need to. And I just need to reach out to them and say, is that still a problem? Would you like to solve it? Because I have capacity and you could start next week. And I will make offers very quickly in that fast lane. And I have some people that over the holidays are like, I've been working on finding the money, phone me the first week of January. So I will be doing that. I already made 2 phone calls today.
That would be a
The
sale in
second,
January.
well, right. And then the middle lane is people who, who I know have still not solved problems, but they've also been looking and curious. And we've gotten to quite a detailed conversation. What does it look like to work with you? And I'm like, we now need to either move them to a yes or be really clear that they're not a buyer. But there is a structure to finding buyers, and you have to have a very simple way to do this. And so for me, the way I would have found most of my clients is through speaking, through intentional conversations, through a really planned but very organic conversation, brain to brain. What are you trying to solve, and can I help you? And if I think I can solve them, I will ask this question. Would you like me to make you a recommendation on how I would solve that? And they would look at my track record and go, it's probably a good opinion. I'd love to hear it. And I'm like, what do you like about that? But I'm also really clear that I get out of bed every day looking for a buyer. I get out of bed every day intending to make an offer. And for me, an offer isn't always buy my stuff. And an offer is not a social media post, buy my stuff, or an email, buy my stuff. It is a dialogue between 2 people that say, I'd like to know what an offer would look like from you. But an
Yes, it's
offer to me
true.
might be movement, which could be, we chatted you were at my event. I run 2 major events a year. And I said, like, you were at my event in December. If you haven't solved that, I'm running another event on January 22nd. Please be there. Here's the registration link. But I'm intentionally moving people. And of course, the more movement you can create, the compound effect becomes real. And you start to see more predictability with offers, with yeses, and with clear next steps and an evolving maybe offer suite. As you say, you didn't say yes, why not? More often than not, the question's not, Christine, I don't think you know what you're doing. It's, I'm not sure I'm really committed to my business. I'm not really sure that I want this enough to do what's required. And I said, well, when you're sure, come back. They're like, when I'm sure I'm going to hire you. Like,
Well,
okay,
there you go. When
well,
you
let's see what happens.
when you were creating the space to be able to bring on your basic funnel that you have been able to do,
Mhm.
was it trial and error? Or I'm assuming it was trial and error. When is it not trial and error? But like, were you like at the get-go, I'm going to host these 2 major events a year, and you were like, success, I'm going to keep it up. Like, this is
No,
going to
because
be not just.
it was trial and error because the first event was never about clients. It was
Hmm.
about me learning what could be happening. So the events were an interesting storyline because I never set out to be a business mentor. I didn't realize how many people didn't know how to find clients. It was abstract to me. I didn't understand it and I didn't see the size of the problem until people kept saying, I'll pay you. I was like, I really don't like what I see in the coaching space. I'm not a coach. I'm a mentor. I'm a
Yeah.
strategic advisor. I'm not a coach. Yes, I will coach you, but more importantly, I will give you skills. I will train you on the skills and I will
Yes.
give you my expertise, which is different. It's different, my friends. And I was bemoaning what I was seeing. I was watching so many people run out of runway on their dreams, spend far too much money with people who would give you knowledge, but nobody wanted to stand with you in the fire and apply it. And I was sitting kind of grumbling to a friend of mine. She's like, well, what's the answer? Stop it. What's the answer? You got to solve this.
Yeah.
I'm like, I think it's time to start a different conversation. She's like, that's a great answer. Tell me what your plan is and come back to me in a week. And just a friend. So then I was one day rewarding myself. I was in a spa in my quiet room with a notebook and a like old fashioned pen. And I was like, I'm going to do this in 90 days or less to prove myself I can. So I sent 7 messages to people I knew. I said, I'm going to do something. I want to learn. I'm going to host an event, change the conversation. Will you have my back? And everyone came back, send me the date. I'll be there. And I never made an offer. I didn't, that was too complex. I just had an event where I could change the dialogue. And I loved the magic of it. I loved actually helping people find the gap and in the moment solve the gap. So we are never about pure entertainment. If I just entertained you, I've fallen well short of what we should have delivered. And so that then led to future things. And as the events have evolved, now like I never make an offer at the event. I mean, the only offer is spend more time with me, get into the VIP room. I'm going to run a hot seat program and a mastermind, be in that room. But it's $100. There's no big dollars involved. But I will only make a big offer when you and I know each other well enough that it makes sense. And so these events have crescendoed, and I really want, first off, you could take any of my events and run and build $1 million business with them because everybody that I bring in to speak at the platform has a very effective tactic or way that they deliver something that if you repeated the formula, and I mean the foundational element, not the words, not the exact sequence, but you take the bare bones of it and repeat it and apply it and construct it to your business, you will create money out of it. And so, because that's what I want as the standard, I said, if people come into the space, you will have a very different experience about what is happening in the world of business because we also address the elephant in the room, which is why you're struggling. We will constantly ask you, why do you want this? Will you do what's required? If what you do is required, I'm going to say, hire Lisa when you're at this stage because she's going to be the best person at that stage. And when you're needing more than the tactic, you should be looking at my services because I will integrate the strategy with the tactic. And that's how you build faster momentum, repeatable success. You keep more profit as a result, but you need both the skills and the tactic. It's not
It's
enough
true.
just to have mindset. And a lot of people right now are being sold mindset because they're not willing to do what's required.
It's true. I'm a holistic person when it comes to having the strategy and the mindset. I even think you have to strategize your mindset. But like, so, I mean, to have the tactics in place, to have the habits in place, to have all those things, because, and this goes back to what you were saying before of being honest with yourself in what you're doing and why you're doing it. And if your mindset's off and you are saying I'm doing this so my husband could retire one day, or I'm doing this for a new pair of Jimmy Choos, whatever it may be, then you're not really fully grasping your want, your why, your what, your how, your anything. And I firmly believe that there is all of us should be dreamers, all of
And we need
us.
to dream more. Like, I
And
think the biggest challenge we've got is
But you also have to be
complacency.
doers. You have to
Well,
be a doer
complacency is
at
the
the
problem, right?
you
It's
have to be the
complacency and
doer
mediocrity.
at the same time as the
Yeah.
dreamer. Because if
Well,
you and 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 this is true. And I actually had this conversation with my friends the other day because they were like, don't say to Lisa, you have an idea unless you you want to actually implement that idea.
yeah. Well, we're two birds of a feather, right? And I said to my bestie since I was, I probably said it for someone when I was 18, and I said, "What do you want?" And the interesting thing is there's the private dream and then there's the public dream. And I think that's
Hmm.
part of the challenge.
Yes.
And I remember, we'll tell the story of my bestie because I think it's very illuminating for women. When she was very young, she's like, I want to be a lawyer. And but she liked law because she liked the stage. She wanted to be in the courtroom. Like I want the theater legitimized. Like that was always what interested her. And she didn't get into school initially. She's like, she wanted to go to the school in her hometown, which had a very good law program, but she didn't get in. So she had to decide, does she really want this? And she's like, enough at the point, she's like, I do want this. I'm willing to go away to school, get the grades, and then transfer back. And as she started her career, she had to get really clear. What does she want? Does she want the big paycheck or does she want the big perks? Because you could have a private defender or you could be a public defender, and both had
Hmm.
different packages of support. Like, what do you want? And as her career progressed and she applied for different jobs, she's like, I want to do the following things. It had to be driven by her want. And then the day I got married, I was overhearing this conversation with my mom that she said, like, I've decided I want to be a judge. And she said that to me many years ago. And I was like, well, that's a big want. I can't tell my law friends I want to be a judge because they're like, it's a fantasy. She's like, that's what I want. I'm like, well, in order to get what you want, you have to put your hand in the arena.
Hmm.
And she's like, so I overheard this conversation because I had said that to her. And she said to my mom, I did put my hand in the arena. And Christine said I needed to put my hand in the arena. And I've got an interview. And I'm like, I'm sorry, wait. You're having a random conversation with my mom about deciding that you did put your hand in the arena, which you didn't tell me. Like, seriously, why not, bestie? Huh? I need to be celebrating that. She's like, well, now I've got this interview and it's your big wedding day. And I'm like, I'm still getting married, whether you tell me or not. But why didn't you tell me? Like, let's talk about you. Like, talk
Yes.
about this. And the way our system works, you go for the interview, but you never know if you're on the list. But your list, or your name is either on it or not on it for 5 years. You don't know. And then the anniversary of that 5 years came up, and she's like, I don't know if I want to put my name back in the ring. And I'm like, do you want it? You're in a vastly different place in your life. You're in a vastly different place as a woman in what you would bring to this change of so many people's lives. Do you want that? She's like, you always ask me the hard questions. I'm like, it's a very simple one. And she put her name back in and
And
she got the call.
oh,
And
hey.
and now she is sitting on the bench. But this comes back to, what do you want? And I have so many, particularly women, who say, like, that's my public dream that's acceptable for someone else. And I'm like, but what do you want? Because here's the truth. You can never have a want that is not achievable. You are not expected to achieve it on your own ever, although people need other people to survive.
It's true.
Hunters hunted, gatherers gathered. We needed both. So pay attention, because there are people that show up in your ears, in your visuals, in your social media feed that are there for a purpose. And sometimes it is because they're inviting you to move. Sometimes they'll hold your hand, and sometimes they're a spark or they add oxygen. Pay attention, because truthfully, I did think I would start a business. I kept thinking if I just knew what I wanted to, it would do it. But I was very comfortable in a very successful corporate career until I was unexpectedly fired. And I did go back to corporate. I didn't start right away entrepreneurship. But here's the thing that made me decide was, shortly after I was fired, one of my team members who worked for me phoned me and said, your role was not replaced and the role is vacant and I want it. Will you help me get it? And I'm like, I am hardly breathing. My life was turned upside down. And you want me to help you? It's like, you've got so much gumption, sis. Like, wow. But I admired her for it.
I was about to say, come on. Like she does have gumption, but hey.
She's got gumption. And she's like, the one person who know who will do this and who will fight for me is you.
Yeah.
And I thought, I get to be either the person she thinks I am or the person they thought I was. That was no longer valued in that organization. And I thought, I get to choose here. And so I did choose to help her. She did get the job. She held it for 6 years and then was let go when they got rid of Canada, essentially.
Okay.
But there was a moment that, you get to decide, I get to do this because I want it. And so you have to sit with that and not edit your dream down, because even whatever you want, as wild as you think it is, I'm faith-based, but God will go, you only see the tip of the iceberg
Oh,
of what is possible.
I
So
fully,
step,
I
move, dream, and be curious as
am
you
big,
move.
big,
Yeah.
like practicality and all that other crap will filter way down our way. But if you
How will kill more dreams than anything else? Like you're thinking your biggest complaint is, I don't know how, I don't know how. And I'm like, you're here, and now I'm getting on my soapbox.
and
How is the laziest question to ask?
I know.
Because knowledge is everywhere. You could hire Lisa and you can hire me, and we will tell you how. Move on.
Yeah.
How is not the question to be asking. The question is what? What do I want? What
So
does it look like? What are
so
the options?
so
What?
let's break it down to the three non-negotiables for you.
Yeah. So I will tell you there's actually 5 foundations every business on the planet is built on. The first 3 are the most important because without the first 3, 4, and 5 are more theoretical until they're lived by achieving 1, 2, and 3. The first one is you've got to get clear on who your next buyer is. Okay, this is what so many people miss. They get thinking about their current client, they get thinking about their past client, they get thinking about their peers, and they look to the competitor set. That is the wasted energy that's not going to help you find a client, because that is a room of enlightenment. And your next client isn't in the room of enlightenment yet. They're in the dark. They don't know what to ask. They don't know the same language, and you're freaking them out and intimidating them. So you've got to figure out the next buyer. And to me, the best tip I can give you around this is it is not finding a client avatar where she's from Boise, Idaho, redhead, 100K, 2 dogs and a cat. Like that is not how you find a buyer. Because the guy in front of you in Starbucks, if you were paying attention to his conversation, could be your next buyer. But to find a next buyer, you're talking about a decision moment. What? Hello, theme here. What is going on? What do they want? What do they desire? What is the problem? Why they don't have it? What have they tried? What? That's the decision-making moment. If you can spot it, see it, intersect it, everything becomes possible. That's the first non-negotiable. Second one is you need to move. And ideally, move somebody from I'm curious to a paid client. And that is a lot more steps than you're taking it to be, because they're distracted, they're inconsistent, they're nervous, and there's no linear path, but there is a path you have to build. And I will give you one best piece of advice: slow it down, simplify it, because you're trying to sell transformation, purpose, or a unicorn. And it's not that I don't want that. I'm not searching for that. I'm searching for my next step on a rocky landscape. So help me find sure footing. But that's strategy, because all the tactics work. The tactic, if it's not working for you, is likely because you don't have it connected to strategy. Because if you think that SEO isn't working for you, but it will test me, it works for somebody else, speaking works for them, it doesn't work for you, it's not the tactic that's at fault.
It's
It's a
the strategy. 100%.
that's number 2. And then the third piece is the importance of having an offer and looking at the offer from 2 sides of the same coin. You need both sides of the coin at the table. Number 1 is you need to know the next buyer, what will they value about it, and why for them is it non-negotiable, in order to see a buyer for today. And that's the goal, my friends, not a buyer for today, not a buyer someday. Otherwise, you're stuck in the slow lane and you'll go broke. But you need to understand their perspective, and we don't spend enough time in the buyer's perspective. That's why people hire me, because they're like, advocate for the buyer for me so I can see it and connect to it better, faster, more predictably. But the other side of the coin, I said there's a flip side to it, is why are you the must hire expert to get the result? So many people get caught into the likable expert. You get caught with educating. And I just told you, how is the laziest question to be asking? Because if how was going to build a business, you'd already have it. How is the most irrelevant conversation, because I could Google it. And if I could Google it, why do I need to hire you? But remember, what you get hired for is an opinion. You get hired to help people implement knowledge, and you need to be sure that you're a safe bet. That's certainty on yourself, and certainty that when you make an offer, you can really deliver it. And so you have to get this clear. And so many people don't know why they should be hired. And like, if you don't know that, I'm not getting my wallet out.
It's true.
I'm wobbly. I'm looking at you to not just be the savior because I am hoping I have evidence that you know where you're going. I'm hoping you've been where I want to go. But more importantly, the biggest thing I'm asking is, can you help me get there? That's
That's
different.
awesome. That is
So those
awesome.
are the things I say they're non-negotiable. Every business on the planet gets there. You get to choose how you build your business, but without those, you won't have predictability. And I want for you a beautiful, boring business where you know where your next client is coming from. You have the economics that you want for the choices that you desire, and you have it predictably.
Christine, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us
So
today.
welcome.
And not only that, for the Dandelion-Inc. members, we get to have her back on March 6th. So super excited about that, where she is going to help us get those growth clients without a big budget and lots of money spent on advertising. I'm excited about March 6th. So, I mean, again, just like Christina stated, like you don't just grow your business in Q4 for it to be implemented in Q1 and that's it. No, it's a constant. It's constant. You do
Yep.
this in real estate sales, you know this, you have your client base that you're working on while you're curating new clients. I forget what you stated, how you categorize people. I used to categorize people as new, nurture, and active.
Yeah, and I would say
And
slow,
like,
middle, and fast. Similar
yeah.
idea. And the thing that's important, my friends, especially now, because I was in a networking meeting this morning and I was gobsmacked by, I'm always there. I'm always gobsmacked by something. But this was the comment. I'm like, I'm in a room that is networking, which means most of us have a desire for more clients.
Mm-hmm.
Clients are not in the room, peeps, just in case you didn't know that. You don't network to find the client in the room. But one of the guys I met with, he said, I'm comfortable with my current business. I'm like, then why are you here? It's like, because it's good enough. I'm at the stage where my business is good enough. I'm like, okay, so you're at a mature business stage, but you might need to support other people who are not at the same level in their age, economics, and desirability. You better be telling people you're for hire. And you better be clear how many people you have room for. Because if you're not saying, I'm in business and available, I said, I've got room for 3 clients. I know exactly what we're looking for. People don't know you're in business.
It's true.
That's dangerous.
It's true. I love it.
Thanks
So
for having me.
how can everybody reach out to you if we don't see them on March 6th? Let them like how can they get a hold of you when they're like, listen, we need your baller attitude, like we need to be whipped into shape, all the things if they want to purchase one of your 3 books or all 3 of your books, which are international bestsellers, like how can they go about doing this?
I want to tell you how simple this is. My name, because guys, there's a theme. I'm a straight shooter. My name is Christine Campbell Rappin. That's Rapin. You can find me at christinecampbellrappin.com. Choose your adventure once you get there.
That's right. And
Simple.
which the site will also be listed in the show notes. So love it. Thank
Love it.
you.
You're welcome.